The trilateral Russia-Ukraine-US negotiations over the weekend brought no breakthrough in peace talks. What will happen next? To talk about it, we're joined by William B. Taylor, former US ambassador to Ukraine. Good evening, Mr. Ambassador.
Good evening, Maciej.
So, US Vice President J.D. Vance has stated that, let me quote, the breakthrough that I do feel that we've made is that all of the issues are actually out in the open. Now, does this mean that both Russians and Ukrainians are willing to negotiate such issues as ceding of territory, for example?
Maciej, it's not at all clear that the Russians are willing to negotiate anything. They have said over and over what they want, and it's the complete domination, the complete capitulation of Ukraine. They've indicated no willingness to compromise, to come to the table. They've said that they want to end the war. Yes, they want to end the war on their terms. The Ukrainians, on the other hand, have been negotiating in good faith, and they've made some proposals, some suggestions, and come to some agreements with the Americans. It's the Americans, Ukrainians, with Europeans have agreed. It's now up to the Russians, and it's the only way to get the Russians to agree is going to be put pressure on Putin.
Right. Now, Ukrainians claim that peace plan negotiations are going well, but remain skeptical whether peace can be really reached. Now, what is the general climate, what is the feeling among Donald Trump's administration members concerning peace talks? Now, aren't Americans simply upset with the slow progress of talks?
Everybody wants these talks to proceed more quickly, not least the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians want it more than anyone. Yes, the Americans are eager to get a deal, getting an agreement, and the obstacle for both the Ukrainians and the Americans and the Europeans is Russia. Russia has not indicated any willingness to make any compromises, any agreements, any moves toward a ceasefire. So yeah, everybody wants it soon, and the Russians are the problem.
Talking about the problem, now Moscow claims that the next round of negotiations with the US will be possible in spring of 2026. Now, so the war will drag on at least until then. Now, meanwhile, the US has the US Senate has prepared bills with sanctions to put more pressure on Russia. Will Donald Trump finally give them the green light it needs?
We will see. We will see. You're exactly right. The U.S. Senate has given strong support for these sanctions on any nation that buys Russian oil. 500% tariffs. So there's strong support for Ukraine in the U.S. Senate and among the American people. When you do the polls, the American people are also strongly supportive of Ukraine and oppose the Russian invasion. So yes, Donald Trump can give the go-ahead. Maciej, Donald Trump can actually do this himself. He could put these tariffs on, and indeed has put some tariffs on. But this is an indication that he's got strong political support to take those strong measures.
Right, there's something else Donald Trump can do. Senator Lindsey Graham, who prepared the sanctions on Russia bill, is also calling for Patriot missiles to be sent to Ukraine if Putin rejects the latest peace proposal. So do you see it really happening?
I do. I think the Patriot missiles are going to be sent. The Europeans have, just as you well know, have been reporting $100 billion, over $100 billion for the Ukrainians to buy weapons, among other things. And some of those weapons are going to be Patriot missiles. Others are going to be Tomahawks, I expect, these long-range cruise missiles. This will allow the Ukrainians, first of all, defend themselves with the Patriots, and second of all, attack military targets deep into Russia with these Tomahawk missiles that will disrupt the aggression that the Russians are imposing on the Ukrainians.
Now, Vladimir Putin is obviously doing his best to break the European-American alliance, calling Europeans warmongers, among others. But Donald Trump himself is adding fuel to the fire, once again claiming that the US needs Greenland for its national security. Why has the whole thing erupted again right now, before Christmas?
You're right. It makes no sense. What's important is for Europe, and that certainly includes Denmark, all Europeans to join with Americans and the Ukrainians to put pressure on Putin to stop this war. That's what needs to happen. That should be the focus. These other issues should not get in the way.
But still, do you think that the US will actually do anything more about Greenland than naming a special envoy for the island?
I don't think so. I don't think so. It makes no sense. Makes no sense. Denmark is a great ally. Europeans are great allies. Americans need allies. I don't think that we'll see any movement on this.
Mm-hmm. But then, on the other hand, Donald Trump said something quite interesting. Now, that the US is really concerned that some world power may take over Greenland, as the president has spoken of Russian and Chinese ships surrounding the island. So is it so that that Washington is afraid of a possible military invasion on Greenland?
No, I don't see any danger of that. There have not been many Russian or Chinese vessels around Greenland anytime recently. So no, I see no threat that the Europeans, the Danes, and the NATO alliance can't handle. I mean, that's what NATO's for, is to defend every nation, every member nation of NATO, and that's what will happen.
Does Donald Trump believe in the strength of NATO?
He does. At least that's what he said at the last NATO summit. He's been very clear that he's come around on NATO. He's impressed with the Europeans. He's impressed with the Europeans' commitments to spend 5% of their GDP on defense and defense-related items. So yes, I think he has come around to support NATO.
Well, he supports the countries who do spend 5% of the GDP on defense purposes, and he's not very happy with the countries which still do not do that. Now, is Donald Trump willing to defend the low payers, let's call it, with U.S. troops?
NATO is a commitment, a strong commitment which Donald Trump has committed. He has indicated he supports, and that includes all 32 member states. So yes.
Now let's get back to Greenland. In response to the Greenland developments, Ursula von der Leyen, head of the European Commission, went on to say that Arctic security remains a key priority for the European Union and one in which we seek to work with allies and partners. Territorial integrity and sovereignty are fundamental principles of international law. However, how long can the Transatlantic Alliance take such provocative moves from the American side? Now, could it lead to Europe imposing trade sanctions on the US, or a similar move, something we've seen already?
I don't think so, Maciej. I don't think so. I think we're going to see the Americans coming around to understand that Greenland and Denmark and Europeans and all NATO members have a common purpose and have a common enemy, and that's Russia. And the support for the Ukrainians as they fight that common enemy will be the unifying force.
So the very last question about Russia. Europe is convinced that Russia will remain an aggressive state to NATO countries. Finland, for example, is extending the age of reservists up to 65 years to have a 1 million troops army. Poland is publishing its new military strategy. Is anyone taking seriously Moscow's propaganda that has absolutely no intentions to attack Europe?
No one should be paying any attention to that line coming out of the Kremlin. All they have to do is look at what the Russians have done to Ukraine for the past nearly 4 years. It's actually 1,399 days, Maciej, that the Russians have been invading, have been bombarding the Ukrainians. And the Europeans know the Russians better than Americans, I will tell you that. And the Finns know the Russians as well as anyone. The Finns have experience with the Russians, and they are not going to take this line coming from the Kremlin seriously.
William B. Taylor, former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, was our guest this evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you, Maciej, for having me.
And thank you for watching, and stay with us for more interviews and news here on TVP World.